People who have stories they want to share, but have not found a question relevant to them. What are your stories?
One late night coming home from an evening out, my husband, a friend of ours, and myself rounded the corner to the stairs that lead to our apartment, when we saw it. Sitting about halfway up on the stairs was an opossum, eating a sandwich. He was sitting on the stairs just like people do, on his butt, with his little feet sticking out, and in his hands was an honest-to-God Subway 6-inch, still in the paper but slightly unwrapped, just like people eat it. It was like he was a tiny person in an opossum suit. There was just something so human-like about everything he was doing. We stood there for what felt like ages watching this opossum eating, and trying to figure out what to do. No way were we going to risk walking past him. We finally decided to take the long way around back to the second set of stairs, but as long as I live I'll never forget that opossum. It was such a truly surreal moment. Oh my goodness, thank you for the rewards you guys. Also for everyone asking about photos, this was around 2003 so cameras weren't in everyone's pocket at that time. Trust me, if that happened today I'd be sharing video of the funky little man and his sandwich.
I love my backpack. It's nothing fancy, just a bog standard Element rucksack, but I picked it out and it's like the only fashion brand article one own. I remember the kids in my middle school flipping out over Element gear back in the day, so it brings back fond memories. Anyway, a couple of years ago I was backpacking, road tripping across Canada. We stopped at Hope, BC for a bite to eat before continuing on to Kelowna, where we had booked accommodation for a couple of nights. I don't quite remember how, but when we arrived around 9 p.m. and unpacked the car, I couldn't find my backpack. Bearing in mind this had everything in it: passport, house keys, iPad, Canadian currency, my favorite sweatshirt, phone charger. I figured the worst, that we had forgotten to lock the car while in the cafe, diner, and someone had yoinked it, because I couldn't remember bringing it with me into the shop. I did not get a lot of sleep that night. The next day I called the diner, just in case I had forgotten it inside. The nicest girl answered the phone and said that yes, there was a backpack there. I asked could she send it out to Kelowna and just take whatever it cost out of the cash envelope in the bag. She agreed immediately to send it out that evening and I hung up, relieved. Unfortunately, being a weekend, it didn't arrive before we were due to leave the area on a 7-day camping trip through Alberta down the Icefields Parkway. So I asked the Airbnb owner if they could send my backpack on to our next stop in Calgary, to a UPS drop-off point or whatever, and again just help themselves to some cash. She agreed, and I left on a week-long trip with no signal, camping in the Rockies. It was a great week. I almost forgot that I was missing just about everything I would have needed to get home to Europe. I remember finally understanding what Bilbo says in The Lord of the Rings. I want to see mountains again, Gandalf, mountains, and then find somewhere where I can rest. I still wish I could go back there and do it all over. Leaving Banff though, I came back down to earth with a bump. We got to Calgary for on Canada Day, so everything was closed, which meant another night of worrying. But the next day I was first in line at the UPS store to pick up my parcel. It was such a relief seeing the familiar shade of burgundy when I opened it up, and everything was there, minus about $40 in shipping costs. Whenever I look at my bag I remember how nice people can be when you just ask for help. They went out of their way to help an idiot stranger get his bag back, and I remember all the more vividly that wonderful trip through an amazing country.
Back in high school I worked as kennel help at a veterinarian office. One day we ran out of sink cleaner and some various products necessary for work. He sent me to Walmart to stock us up. I loaded about 10 or 15 cans of Comet and a few jugs of Clorox in the buggy and was headed over to get something on the other side of the store. As I rounded a corner I almost collided with another lady's buggy. She looked down and all but screamed, "Is there a sale on Comet? Oh my god," and took off running with her buggy towards the cleaning aisle. I tried very hard to catch her and tell her it was for work, but she was absolutely determined to grab the rest of the Comet. If you were accidentally scammed by a teenager into buying a beep ton of Comet in 1984 or so, please know I tried to stop you.
I haven't told this story in a while, but Uber Eats scammed me out of 2K plus and ruined my 20th birthday LMAO. It was pretty much my first birthday where I was on my own and didn't celebrate with my family at all, since I was a 5-hour drive away at college. It also fell on a Tuesday, so I wasn't able to do anything with friends either. The plan was to grab dinner at an Indian place that Friday to celebrate. I got out of class early, and my only celebration was to order some IHOP through the Uber Eats app. It was like my third time using it. Anyway, I got some chicken tenders for $16, then took a 5-hour nap. Real exciting. I woke up at around 8 p.m., after all the food places on campus closed. So I figured, beep it, it's my birthday. Let's order out twice. So I tried to get some chicken nugs from McDonald's delivered. I press confirm order, the page loads. I get an error. Okay, strange, let's try again. Another error. One more. I Google the error code, and see that it pops up whenever a card gets declined. That can't be right. The meal costs like $13, and at this time, I have about $1,000 on my bank account. For anyone who has a student wallet through PNC, you know that it's basically 3 accounts in one. You have a checking account and 2 savings accounts that are all linked to each other. As a broke college student, this was quite literally all I had to survive on. So I check my bank. Every account was cleared out. $0 across the board. I had over 30 different pending transactions, all from Uber Eats. They ranged from 0.99 cents to $104, going until every account was emptied. I was sitting at about minus $600 by the time I checked. So obviously, I'm freaking TF out. My bank was closed, so I couldn't call them. I hit the Uber Eats customer service. They asked me to list every transaction, which I do. They confirm the transactions came from them. Then, the agent tells me that these are just temporary holds, that they always do, and the money won't actually leave my account. Okay, but over 30 transactions? I spend hours trying to figure out what exactly went wrong in their system, and each agent keeps giving me the same copy and pasted response. The charges won't post to your account, just wait. The thing is, with debit cards, they treat pending transactions as if the money is already off your card, so I couldn't use my money at all. I was helpless. The next morning, I called my bank as soon as they opened. My card was cancelled, and they had to dispute each charge. There was so many of them that they couldn't all fit under one report, and had to be split into 3. Usually when you dispute a transaction, the bank gives you a provisional credit, which is a temporary refund of your money. They could only provisionally refund me on one case report, which still left me at about minus $150. I would have to wait the 2 months until the investigation ended until I would get the rest of my money back. Oh, and guess what? The money did leave my account. Not only that, but I was hit for approximately 10 overdraft fees for $35 each for all the ones that bounced. And when I went back to Uber Eats about this, they kept repeating the same message that the transactions wouldn't post. They already posted. That entire week was a mess. I was stranded at college with literally no money. My family struggles enough, and my mom had to skip a few bills to send me cash through MoneyGram. I couldn't have money come through my bank account because it would eaten from all the fees I had accrued. I even canceled the get-together that Friday, though we were able to go in the end. Happy birthday to me. Beep Uber Eats.
Pulled a stranger's dildo out of my pocket at the pub. Went to buy a new jacket at Target, tried on the one on the rack but it was one size too small. Went back to the rack, grabbed the next size up and went straight to the counter and paid for it. Cashier throws it in the bag. I head home and throw the bag on the table. Next night my mates turn up at my house unannounced to grab me to go to the pub. I get dressed real quick, grab the bag with the jacket and jump in the car and head off to knock the top off a couple of frothies. A few shandies later and we decide to head home, get outside and it's definitely jacket weather. I throw the jacket on, the boys give me a hard time about how fancy it is, I put my hands in the pocket and find an object in there. No idea what it is or how it got in there, I pull it out in front of everybody. I'm left standing there, in my fancy new jacket, out the front of the pub with the lads, with a stranger's dildo in my hand, no idea how it got there. Of course nobody believed that I had no idea how that thing came to be in my possession. Almost 20 years later and I am still curious about the series of events that lead up to somebody needing to hide their dildo in a jacket on the rack at Target, why they didn't return to get it, and if they did return, what their reaction was when they couldn't find the jacket.
I've shared this before, but my friend from grad school had previously been a skydiving instructor in Colorado, and had jumped more than 600 times. One of these times, he, for some reason, had his wallet in his suit, and it fell out. Fell to earth somewhere, he figured, this sucks but oh well. Absolutely no chance of finding it. Separately, a man in rural Colorado was found murdered. Turns out in their remote cabin where he lived with his daughter, he had been sexually abusing her and she finally had enough and killed him. The police searched the house and all of his property, and found my friend's wallet in the trunk of his car. Police thought to themselves, beep, idiot murderer left his wallet in this dude's trunk, damn, easiest arrest ever. Friend had the super believable alibi of, couldn't have been me, officer. Actually that wallet fell out of my pants while I was skydiving. Edit to add. My friend was never arrested, but he was questioned, and had to have his story corroborated. From what I remember of him telling me the aftermath, the cops knew early on that it was the daughter, so she might have confessed. That's pure speculation though. The sexual abuse, self-defense detail didn't come out until later though. When the cops cleared my friend, they told him the father had taken all of his cash. They have no idea why he kept the wallet.
Back in early 2018 when I first moved to Utah to start school, I was at a 7-Eleven when there was this girl, and she was asking for directions to the train station. I pointed her in the right direction, but she was walking. I figured, beep it, I have an hour until class, so I'll give her a ride. She tells me about studying, volunteering, can't remember which, in Puerto Rico, Costa Rica, or some other Spanish country for months. She says she came out here to explore the area and that she moved in with an old high school friend, but he ended up being crazy and flipped out on her. She had to pretty much jump out of his truck because he wouldn't pull over. She was planning on just taking a bus out, but she left her wallet in his place. I tell let's go grab it real quick, but he ended up following us there and I flipped a quick U-turn out of there. Ended up completely just leaving everything there because I figured this dude might shoot us. I let her use my charger so she can get in contact with her parents to give her enough money to buy a ticket home, and sent her on her way. I had to get to class, so I kinda left in a hurry once I dropped her off at the station and didn't get her info so she could let me know she made it home safe. I never got her name, but I know she was going somewhere in the Midwest. So if this story sounds familiar, and you remember a buff bearded Mexican dude in a white Volkswagen hatchback helping Yar out, let me know that you're okay. It's been on my mind forever because I never knew what happened after I left. Okay, I get it. Puerto Rico is a part of the US.
My great-grandmother lived in a nursing home for the last years of her life. She was about 95, with minimal eyesight and hearing when this happened. My great-grandmother told my mother, she was afraid of that lady in black. What woman in black? My mother would ask. The one that is standing at my bed every night. I think, she is finally coming to get me. Naturally, my mother dismissed this as a figment of her granny's imagination. One evening, when my mother was visiting, GGM told her, I think, I am going to die tonight. Can you stay? I don't want to be alone when the lady in black comes for me. So my mother stayed at her bed, sleeping uncomfortably in an old armchair. Suddenly, she awoke to some noise she could not immediately pinpoint, but she saw a figure in a long, black gown, standing at the far end of the bed. My mother's scream must have woken the whole nursing home, but it especially scared the lady in black. She turned tail, left the room and ran into one of the nurses, who came running to investigate my mother's scream. It turned out, the lady in black was my GGM's bedridden and demented neighbor. Nobody knew she could actually walk, let alone dress up in her favorite black dress and wander the nursing home at night. Apparently, she was seen by some of the other inhabitants, who, fearing they would thought to be crazy, simply never talked about the ghost that would enter their rooms at night to stand at their beds and water their plants.
One time I had a substitute teacher who fell and hurt herself while walking me somewhere. She went to the nurse, didn't tell any of the other teachers, they asked me during lunch where she was, and disappeared forever. I'm assuming she may have been let go for not telling anyone that she couldn't teach for the remainder of the day. It's basically a fever dream memory at this point cause it happened when I was 7. I hope she's okay now.
In a busy revolving door downtown, a guy stopped mid-cycle to pick up something on the floor. As he bent over, the glass partition in the revolving door immediately behind him whacked him hard in the butt. The guy made a big scene, yelling at the person behind him that he did it on purpose, and that he was going to call his lawyer.
May your day be filled with joy and happiness. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more quality content every day.